And as our culture minister tells women to cover up, in Haryana, another controversy brews over the Assembly's invitation to a Jain monk to address. Digambar Jain monks have rejected clothing in public and in private. While much of the controversy and outrage over his speech is around his having spoken to the Assembly in the nude, his comments actually are even more controversial on the fact that religion and politics have the relationship of a husband and wife, where religion instructs behavior. More misogyny, or are we seeing the rise of a cultural hegemony in our political and social space? Well, we spoke to the Jain monk Tarun Sagar a short while ago. I began by asking him exactly what he means by talking about dharam and rajniti, as he says, being like husband and wife.
धर्म और राजनीति के संबंध में जो कहा कि धर्म पति है, राजनीति पत्नी है, इसका सीधा सा अर्थ है कि राजनीति पर धर्म का अंकुश जरूरी है। अगर धर्म का अंकुश राजनीति पर न रहे तो धर्म मदोन्मत्त हाथी की तरह उच्छृंखल हो जाएगी। तो राजनीति पर नियंत्रण जरूरी है और नियंत्रण धर्म ही करेगा, नियंत्रण कौन करेगा? इसीलिए धर्म को राजनीति से अलग नहीं कर सकते। और राजनीति में जो नीति शब्द है वो कहीं ना कहीं धर्म की ओर इशारा करता है।
लेकिन सागर जी, हमारे देश में संविधान है जिसमें सेक्युलरिज्म की बात की जाती है, धर्म और राजनीति को अलग रखने का प्रयास किया जाता है हर रास्ते में, हर एरिया में। आप कह रहे हैं कि दोनों एक दूसरे के बगैर रह नहीं सकते। Isn't this against the constitution?
जो आप संविधान की बात कर रहे हैं, उसका संविधान के नियम की बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो जो उसका अनुवाद किया धर्मनिरपेक्ष राष्ट्र है, मुझे लगता है ये गलत है। भारत कभी धर्मनिरपेक्ष राष्ट्र नहीं हो सकता है, इसको संप्रदाय निरपेक्ष राष्ट्र कहा जाना चाहिए। जब जब धर्मनिरपेक्ष उसका अर्थ निकाला जाता है, व्याख्या निकाली जाती है, मैं उसको स्वीकार नहीं करता हूँ। धर्म की निरपेक्ष की जगह संप्रदाय निरपेक्ष करिए। धर्म को अलग किया ही नहीं जा सकता। ये हमारे देश की परंपरा रही है कि महलों में रहने वाला राजा नंगे पांव चल करके संत की कुटिया में जाता था, सलाह मशवरा करता था और आशीर्वाद लेता था, प्रेरणा लेता था और अपने राज्य का संचालन करता था। इसलिए धर्म को तो किसी भी हालत में राजनीति से अलग नहीं किया। हाँ, मैंने कहा था, ये भी कहा था कि जब जब राजनीति में धर्म का प्रवेश होता है तब तब रामायण रची जाती है, और जब जब धर्म में राजनीति का प्रवेश होता है तब तब महाभारत रचा जाता है। तो राजनीति में धर्म का प्रवेश हो ये तो उचित है, मगर धर्म में राजनीति घुस जाए इसको उचित नहीं कहते हैं।
तो सागर जी, आपको लगता है कि अगर आपके कमेंट्स में एक्चुअली कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है तो आपको क्यों लगता है कि लोग ऐसे रिएक्ट कर रहे हैं? आपने जो कहा, एक तो आपकी जो प्रेजेंस थी एक विधानसभा में, और दूसरा आपके जो कमेंट्स हैं, काफी लोग कहते हैं कि आपके कमेंट्स प्रॉब्लमैटिक हैं, एंटी वुमेन भी हैं।
मेरे विचारों को कोई रिजेक्ट नहीं करता है। मैं प्रवचन की जगह कड़वे प्रवचन देता हूँ। दोनों में फर्क है। प्रवचन और कड़वे प्रवचन में इतना ही फर्क है। राम जी क्या थे, कृष्ण जी क्या थे, महावीर क्या थे, ये है प्रश्न, और हम क्या है, ये है कड़वे प्रवचन। तो मेरी कोशिश होती है कि हम महापुरुषों के बारे में बताने की बजाय आपके जीवन की मैं कथा नहीं सुनाता। कहीं जाता हूँ तो राम कथा, महावीर कथा या भागवत कथा, ये कोई कथा नहीं कहता हूँ। मैं जिंदगी की व्यथा कहता हूँ, और व्यथा से मतलब है व्यक्तिगत आपके जीवन से। इसलिए मेरी बातों को सब लोग लाइक करते हैं, पसंद करते हैं, और उनमें जो गुणार्थ होता है उसको निकालते हैं। और मैं आम भाषा में बोलता हूँ, बोलचाल की भाषा में बोलता हूँ, इसलिए मेरी बात को सब लोग समझते हैं, उसको फॉलो करते हैं, पसंद करते हैं, सुनते हैं। ना सिर्फ सुनते हैं बल्कि ना सिर्फ मुझे लोग सुनते हैं बल्कि चुनते भी हैं।
जी सागर जी, आपके सपोर्ट में बहुत लोगों ने बोला है, उसका हम कोई इनकार नहीं कर सकते हैं, लेकिन आपने जो बोला है कि राजनीति पत्नी है और धर्म पति है, धर्म का कंट्रोल राजनीति पे होना चाहिए, मतलब एक तरीके से आप यही तो कह रहे हैं कि आप एंटी विमेन हैं, क्योंकि अगर धर्म का कंट्रोल राजनीति पे होना चाहिए, जैसे पति का कंट्रोल पत्नी पे होना चाहिए, ये आप इस पर क्या कहना चाहेंगे? आपके कमेंट्स काफी एंटी विमेन हो सकते हैं ना?
नहीं नहीं, औरतों के खिलाफ या महिला के खिलाफ मैं बोल रहा हूँ, ऐसा तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। महिला तो अपनी जगह बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। नारी के बगैर नर अधूरा है, और नर और नारी दोनों मिलते हैं तभी संपूर्णता आती है। ये हमारी संस्कृति भी कहती है और धर्म भी इस बात के लिए सहमत होता है। तो मेरे वक्तव्य को सही रूप में समझा जाए तो आपको भी लगेगा, या दूसरे जो इस बात से सहमत नहीं है उनको भी लगेगा कि हाँ ये ठीक है। अंततः धर्म ही हर चीज पर नियंत्रण करता है, कंट्रोल करता है, और धर्म के द्वारा ही नियंत्रित होते हैं सारी चीजें, चाहे वो राजनीति हो चाहे अन्य कोई चीजें हो।
तो मतलब आपको बिल्कुल कन्विक्शन है कि आपने ऐसी कोई कंट्रोवर्शियल बात नहीं की है जहां आपने बोला है कि धर्म और राजनीति एक ही रास्ते पे एक साथ चलते हैं?
देखिए, एक रथ के दो पहिए हैं। राजनीति और धर्म एक रथ के दो पहिए हैं। रथ कभी भी एक पहिए से नहीं चलेगा, दोनों पहिए होंगे तो रथ आगे बढ़ेगा। समाज को आगे बढ़ाना है, देश को आगे बढ़ाना है तो धर्म भी चाहिए, राजनीति भी चाहिए। मैंने हरियाणा विधानसभा में कहा था, या मध्य प्रदेश विधानसभा में जब मुझे बुलाया गया था तो वहाँ कहा होगा, मुझे ध्यान नहीं कहाँ कहा, लेकिन कहा था सरकार के पास ताकत है, हमारे जैसे संतों के पास उपदेश है। अकेले उपदेश से समाज में परिवर्तन नहीं आता, और ना ही अकेली ताकत से समाज में परिवर्तन आता है। जब दोनों मिलकर के, उपदेश और ताकत दोनों मिलेंगे, तो हम अपेक्षित परिणाम समाज में, देश में देख सकते हैं।
जी सागर जी, आपके वक्त के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Was the Digambar Jain monk Tarun Sagar reacting to the controversy around the comments he's made. Of course, as we said, much of the controversy has been about the fact that he addressed the Haryana Assembly in the nude, which is how Digambar Jain monks actually live their life once they have relinquished all material things. But his comments about likening religion and politics to the relationship of a husband and wife, where religion has a greater role in directing the behavior of politics, hugely controversial. He stands by them. But let's go across to our various panelists as well. I have with me Sabah Naqvi, senior journalist in the studio, but joining me from their locations, Raghav Chadha, the spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, Sudhanshu Trivedi, spokesperson of the BJP. We also have Advaita Kala, who is an author, and Rupan Doshi, who is the CEO of Future Tech and belongs to the same community of Jains that the monk Tarun Sagar also comes from. Raghav Chadha, let me actually open this up with you, because Arvind Kejriwal actually has made a comment in support of this particular individual. He has also said that he respects his words and he has listened to his words quite frequently. But the controversy around whether a religious figure, whatever his state of clothing may or may not be, in the state assembly, is that appropriate really? And also the comments he made about, you know, the relationship of a husband and wife, other various comments he's made on rape, on female feticide as well, some strong comments. You know, what do you say about all that? I mean, your chief minister has come out in support of him.
Well, Maya, a revered saint, a spiritual leader who has relinquished all worldly pleasures, vanities and material things, and has been working for the betterment of the society and upliftment of the poor and the downtrodden, must be respected. His views, his teachings must be heard. One may completely agree with all his views, one may disagree with his views, or one may partly agree or partly disagree with his views. But the fact is that we live in a pluralistic society. India is an assimilation of cultures, where we have always benefited from the assimilation of different views, religions and thoughts, and whether it is in context of the learned saint of the Jain Dharma, or a Maulvi or a priest, all their teachings and their views must be respected. One can express agreement or a disagreement, but the fact is that it should not it should be made appropriately, and one of our members of the party who made certain comments about the revered saint, he has apologized a number of times. The national convener of my party has expressed his regret and also expressed our deepest respects for the revered saint. So I think that as far as the controversy is concerned, that should be put to rest, and as far as the larger question of these saints addressing legislative assembly is concerned, I would say that people from every religion or every section of society who have achieved certain things in their life, who have been working for the betterment of the people and have relinquished these vanities and worldly pleasures must be heard, and their views must be respected.
Okay, all right. I'm going to bring a reaction to that, but before I come to you, Sabha, let me go across to Rupen Doshi to comment on not just the presence of a religious figure in the assembly from your community, but also the kind of comments that he has made. Mr. Doshi, your views?
See, there is no harm in a religious leader representing himself or his views in a political assembly. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of being sensationalized a bit because of his lack of dress. You know, in us Digambar Jains, somebody as pure and somebody who's renounced the world as him, not wearing any clothes is pretty normal. But I think in the public eye in India, it kind of got sensationalized, and that's why all this attention. And that's why everybody is actually, hearing and tearing apart every word that he has said. I think physical presence of him over there is more like a spiritual leader rather than a religious leader. He's talking about thought process and how spiritualism should be a part of politics. And let me tell you, that's really, really required. That I'm not talking about religion per se, but spiritualism, we really need to think of the higher plane. Our politicians especially need to think of that. And I think that's the reason why he was invited. As a monk, he's not a saint, by the way, he's a monk. So as a monk, in the religious fora, in the religious arena, he will not talk what he spoke in the assembly. Okay, he'll talk about the Atma, the attainment of the Atma, self. He'll only talk about you and yourself. He will not talk the worldly things that he talked about in the assembly. So as far as his views as far as my views on what he spoke, look, I think that he was kind of talking to not Jains, hardcore Jains like me, who already understand a little bit about the religion, but he was talking to the general mass. So therefore he gave examples of things that people understand, people will pay attention to, and I think it's a pretty good way of getting people's attention by talking about topical subjects.
Okay, all right.
So even this stuff about female feticide, I think he was trying to highlight a particular problem.
I think the more problematic comments are about Dharam and Rajniti, the ones that he made about, Dharam being the husband and Rajniti being the wife. Sabha Naqvi, come in on that, because, yes, one can argue we're a pluralistic society. Every faith, members of those faiths, religious leaders of those faiths have a space, certainly. But A, is the assembly a space for them? And B, when they are coming out and making statements that are clearly archaic and are not in keeping with the times when it comes to the role of men and women, then what do we do?
I have no issue with anybody being in the nude. And if his religion says that is not an issue at all for me. But I take serious issue, Maya, anyone who studied the working of the Indian Constitution, who has done that, knows that there was a very, very conscious attempt to keep religion away from it. There's a term called separation of church and state, which is used as it has been kept away. Everybody, every small group has religious leaders who they would revere. And in India, we don't insult anyone's religious beliefs. I think it's wrong to insult that. And I am actually very disappointed that the Aam Aadmi Party has just ignored the constitutional fact of this. And they're a young modern party, but they're saying it's fine, he's a revered saint. In fact, the spokesperson on your program is saying, let's get more of them, let them be heard. The issue of them being in the assembly is not, they have not looked at that. So are we going to now have a situation where we start calling Babas and Maulanas and Maulvis into assemblies? My God, I mean, you have to keep them out of this space. I think that's a very important issue. And what the monk said in your interview with him, I noted that very carefully. And if he speaks in a pravachan to his audience, that's fine. But he is saying dharma must show the way to politicians. What is that? Is that what Ayatollah Khomeini says? That is what people say in Iran. that the politics is subservient to the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So there are. Let me finish.
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
Let me finish. Let me finish, sir.
Yeah.
It is fine if he wants to say that. People in search of dharma. Let me finish, sir. Let me finish, sir. So if he's fine if he wants to say that to his followers, everyone is free to even proselytize and say it to other people. But there is a very important principle that is being violated here. Beyond that, there is of course this whole issue of somebody is a husband and somebody is a woman. I mean, what is this? There may be many women who don't have husbands. So where are they? I mean, I have a question. We are living in a modern age. There are many women who wear skirts. There are many women who don't have husbands. So every political party which wants to, there is a constitutional point being made here. We cannot have religious leaders speaking to us.
Right. So, well, on the question of also the role of women and what they can wear, what they can say, etc. Let's just move to another aspect of this debate as well. You know, on the one hand, we're talking about the presence of Mr. Sagar in the Haryana Assembly. On the other hand, what we've had today is the culture minister also in the midst of a controversy. Sudhanshu Trivedi, I want to come to you on this because Mahesh Sharma has made some comments about women not wearing skirts. That's again being seen in the prism of misogyny, of telling women what they can and cannot do in public spaces. He's made the argument that it's for their own personal safety. But shouldn't law and order be addressed and not what women are wearing as far as that's concerned?
Actually, in both the cases, and the cases of Jain Muni's comment on Dharma and Rajaniti, and in the case of what Mahesh Sharma has said, there is a distinct problem of understanding the words. First of all, I would like to say, there is no English translation of the word dharma. It is not religion. Religion has one faith, one messenger, one book, one way of worship. Dharma has none of it. And that's why the dharma has to be the basic fundamental of the politics. And I would like to quote with the constitution. In the Hindi translation of the constitution, the word secular is translated as panth nirpekshta, not as dharma nirpekshta. Because on the chair of the Speaker of the House in Lok Sabha, it is written Dharma Chakra Pravartanaya, for the propagation of the cycle of dharma. On the emblem of Supreme Court, it is written Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya. The problem is, with the Western Semitic English mindset, we are unable to understand what the dharma is, and here starts the problem. Now coming to this tourism aspect. In West, the tourism is just a tourism. It is a recreational tourism. In India, there are two types of tourism. One is recreational tourism, tourism. Another is a religious tourism. एक है पर्यटन और एक है तीर्थाटन. In India, more predominant is tirthatan. That is the religious tourism, not the recreational tourism. Whether the people going from Sabramalai to the Amarnath to or anywhere else. So the Westerns who are coming here just try to understand, like as you land in the Vatican, you are giving a book, you are given a book by the tourist department that you have to follow these type of things. You are advised. So nothing should be taken out of that. It is just try to understand the context. As whenever he has made it very clear that when you enter in a Gurdwara, you have to follow a certain code of conduct. When you enter into a mosque, you have to follow a certain code of conduct. So when you are going in a mandir, then you have to do not consider it just a recreational place of tourism. It's also having the religious devotional value.
Mr. Trivedi, I think the point that's being made is when people go into religious spaces, by and large, they respect the sentiments of the space they might be going into, whether it's a temple, a church, a Gurdwara, whatever have you. I think the fact that a directive should come from the culture ministry on telling people how to dress in India, I mean, what does that say for us as a people?
No, he has just given a signal, and with due respect and due humility, I would like to say, those who are talking about the woman liberty, even on the religious aspect, if somebody has something advice has been given, where nobody was having any capability or dared to put a question on fatwas who said that the woman should be in the burqa, everybody will be silent.
No,
but here you will be saying on just an advice.
No one is silent. Don't
for
have
the
outsiders
who remain, who come to India, they are not aware about the situation here.
Not at all, Sudhanshu.
Sudhanshu, when did you start comparing India and Saudi Arabia?
Mr. Doshi, Mr. Doshi and Raghav Chadha and Advaita Kala, I want to bring you in as well. But Mr. Doshi and Raghav, very quick responses to what he's saying. Mr. Doshi?
No, I don't think, I think he's just simplifying the whole thing. You know, by saying that you were not there at that time and why you over here is ridiculous. Of course we were there at that time, and we completely opposed you know, the religion trying to impose fatwas and, you know, impose those restrictions on women. We are going to be there, Mr. Trivedi, every time something is going to oppress women and oppress the common man in particular. So, you know, when you distort religion and you mix up the word religion and dharma, I think it's very confusing. We are not talking about religion, we are talking about spiritualism. So if there is less and less of religion in politics and there's more and more of spiritualism,
you are not clear about
you know,
the definition.
every common man, every
nothing to do
politician will
with
be a better
religion.
man and will have better politics and a better party.
His definition of dharma is spirituality. Mr. Doshi has already made that clear. Raghav Chadha, let's come to you for a quick response.
No, spirituality is above dharma.
Women.
Okay,
Spirituality is far above than dharma.
All right, Raghav Chadha, go
The
ahead.
problem is, in
Mr.
English,
Trivedi, one
you
moment,
are having
sir.
one word,
Yeah,
monk.
one moment,
In
sir.
Hindi, you are having
We agree that the
sannyasi,
English language can be very restricting at
Shraman,
times.
Parivrajak.
There is
So
no
much of
argument.
diversification
Well,
is there.
There is
As
no
far as
argument
culture.
on the fact that the English language can be extremely restricting at times. But leaving that aside, Raghav Chadha, respond.
My views are that women had more freedom in Vedic times than they have in the times of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The minister concerned is a habitual offender. He has made certain absolutely derogatory and shameful remarks about religious minorities. He has made shameful remarks about women, and he must be sacked with immediate effect. And the Bharatiya Janata Party must understand that they should stop dictating what people should wear, what people should eat, what people should watch, and who people should love.
Okay.
It's none of their business. They have been elected to govern. They must concentrate on that.
Okay. All right, fair point. Advaita Kala, will bring you in on this discussion as well, because we're talking about the role of dharma. How do you define dharma? Because clearly there's an argument or a debate on the very definition. Is it religion? Is it spirituality? Is it a mix of the two? Is it above the two? What is your definition of dharma?
I think it's very similar to what has already been said on the program. I'm not deviating from that. I think there is no English equivalent in terms of the Indic faiths, at least when it comes to the term dharma. I don't think the direct translation is religion. And when we do that, that does lead to some sort of appropriation and some sort of miscommunication when it comes across that way. I think with the Jain Muni, he was invited. I think there are two aspects to this. One is, of course, the aspect of whether spiritual leaders should be called into parliaments or legislative assemblies. And it's something that secular democracies have struggled with all over. I mean, it was in 2015 that the Pope was called to the Congress, and the US Congress just very recently. This after, you know, JFK, when he came to power, had to kind of vouch and publicly state that he would not be dictated by the Vatican because he was such a devout Catholic. So they've made that journey, you know, they've made that transition where it's okay to let religion into their public square and not be kind of intimidated by it or be threatened by it. I think this year, when you're talking about the Digambar Jains, you're talking really about a micro minority. You're talking about 0.4% of the population who has great literacy figures, 94%. You've got great in terms of gender disparity when it comes to literacy between men and women. You're looking at a 6.4% differential. So you've got a community here that is really treating women better in terms of these parameters than a lot of the other communities in this country. So that's what's going for it. Of course, there are certain views which will come with that. So you can quibble over the content. But I think even in that sense, you know, when you look at dharma and how it's defined, it's very different from the understanding of it being religious per se. And secondly, and when it comes to Mahesh Sharma and his comments, I agree. You know, there have been a series of comments where he has been a little out of line. But having worked in hotels, I know that, you know, a lot of times when we had female foreign tourists, we did do things. We did issue advisories. We did put female guests on particular female-only floors, sometimes close to elevators, for their security and their safety. Unfortunately, this is a reality. So I think in this one, he's really caught between, I mean, if you read the US travel advisory for female foreign visitors to India, it's I mean, if I just read it and had never been to India, I'd be scared to come as well.
All right,
so
okay.
you have
Sabha,
to really look at the context in which we're trying to bring tourists into our country.
All right, Sabha.